A single piercing statement from Jasmine Crockett about Melania and Barron triggered Trump's explosive reaction, revealing a hypocrisy that millions had endured in silence. It was a Friday evening in late May, cameras rolling in a crowded Phoenix convention center. The atmosphere crackled with tension as the discussion centered on immigration and privilege in contemporary America. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat at the panel's edge, arms crossed, eyes unwavering. A regional reporter posed the question that would spark nationwide controversy. Congresswoman Crockett, do you see a double standard in how immigrants are treated? Without hesitation, she leaned into the microphone with unshakable conviction born from lived experience. If the First Lady and her son arrived here today under identical circumstances, no celebrity status, no wealth, no political connections, they'd face the same treatment as any other undocumented immigrant. Detention or deportation? That's the contradiction we must address. Stunned silence filled the auditorium, followed by rippling murmurs. The moderator's eyes widened. Someone gasped audibly from the audience. Camera operators shifted nervously. Yet Crockett remained composed, hands steady on the table, gaze fixed forward. A Republican senator visibly bristled while other panelists attempted redirecting the conversation. But the room's energy had fundamentally shifted. Before the broadcast concluded, clips of Crockett's remarks were circulating on social platforms. Content creators began incorporating immigrant testimonies. Hashtags emerged organically. By midnight, the footage had accumulated over 2 million views across networks. While social media erupted, chaos consumed the White House. President Trump had been watching from his private dining area adjacent to the Oval Office, initially slouched and disinterested while eating dinner. When Crockett's words hit the screen, he straightened abruptly. She said what? He snarled, jabbing his finger at the television. An aide rewound the segment. They'd face the same treatment as any other undocumented immigrant. Trump's complexion reddened as he slammed his utensil down. That's outrageous. That's my wife, my son. Press Secretary Colby Dent was summoned immediately. We're destroying this narrative before dawn, Trump demanded. Every network, every publication, we frame this as an attack on a minor. We go aggressive. Meanwhile, Crockett was quietly departing the venue with her assistant Rena Barrow, heading to an all-night diner. She'd participated in countless town halls, but this felt different. You'll realize you just ignited a firestorm, Rena observed as they settled into a corner booth. Jasmine stirred her coffee thoughtfully. Perhaps, but it needed saying. Rena looked concerned, thinking beyond typical media backlash to genuine security threats. You might be walking into a hurricane tomorrow, Jasmine nodded. Possibly, but we've weathered worse storms. By morning, Deport Melania was trending, ironically launched by those mocking Crockett, but hijacked by voices highlighting immigration disparities. Video compilations surfaced contrasting ICE raids on Latino families with glamorous footage of modeling visa arrival. People were connecting previously unlinked dots on an unprecedented scale. The following morning, before most Americans had their coffee, President Trump stood at the White House podium. His tie was askew, hair damp at the roots, voice trembling, with personal fury rather than presidential composure. She is disgraceful, completely disgraceful to Congress, he declared, stabbing the air. For a sitting member to attack the First Lady and our son on live television, it's not merely disrespectful, it's dangerous and disgusting. Behind him, Vice President Raymond Holt appeared rigid and uncomfortable, arms crossed too tightly. Press Secretary Dent stood nearby, gripping an barely reviewed binder. Trump's voice thundered across every cable network, radio station, and social media feed. She's calling for my wife and child's deportation. Consider that this represents the radical left's new face. When asked about congressional action, Trump demanded, censure her, strip her committees, make her irrelevant. She doesn't belong in Washington. That 15-second clip would replay endlessly. But in Dallas, Crockett sat quietly in her apartment, legs tucked under her, watching the outrage unfold. They're distorting it, Rena said, pacing. He's lying about your actual words. Jasmine remained silent momentarily, having expected heat but not this intensity or speed. I said if Melania and Barron arrived today without status or privilege, they'd be treated like everyone else. That's factual. I didn't insult anyone. Out an uncomfortable truth. With 5 interview requests already, including major networks, Jasmine chose one. CNN that evening, Melania's team issued a carefully crafted statement read by Dent. As a mother, I find the Congresswoman's remarks beneath her office's dignity. Our family deserves the same respect as any other. That evening on Anderson Cooper's show, Jasmine appeared composed in a minimalist office setting. Anderson asked directly, you've sparked national conversation and major backlash. Do you regret your words? No, because what I said wasn't personal, it was political. It addressed the system treating some mothers as threats and others as protected, based entirely on wealth and power. I didn't name call or insult. I held up a mirror. Asked about political consequences, she replied, perhaps, but not speaking. Truth hurts all of us. Her measured, firm response resonated with millions, particularly immigrant communities previously unfamiliar with Crockett. The clip went viral overnight. By Saturday morning, the storm had broken containment no longer merely political but cultural and emotional. Everyone from retired politicians to lifestyle influencers had weighed in. Cable channels ran hourly split-screen panels, conservatives calling her vicious and reckless versus immigrants, attorneys and civil rights leaders saying she'd spoken unspoken truth. Crockett maintained relative silence, meeting quietly with aides at a Santa Fe cafe while taking a brief break from the chaos. Her silence only amplified the noise. Instagram influencers posted side-by-side images, Melania in designer heels, stepping off Air Force One beside a Guatemalan mother holding her baby behind chain-link fencing. The captions were biting but pointed. One crosses borders in luxury, the other in desperation. Only one receives protection. That image alone garnered over 500,000 reposts in 24 hours. Stories poured in nationwide. An Afghan father in Dearborn wrote, "My daughter nearly faced deportation over paperwork errors, but with a foreign accent and famous surname. Perhaps she'd be in a penthouse instead." A Tucson nurse recorded a tearful car video. Congresswoman Crockett said what we've been screaming into the void for years, and now they want to silence her for it. TikTok users created a new challenge, reading Jasmine's quote then sharing family immigration stories. The hashtag accumulated over 8 million views by nightfall. In Washington, Trump wasn't finished. At a private donor dinner, between bites of filet mignon, he ranted, "She thinks she's brave, she's foolish. Mark my words, by next week, no one will remember her name." He was wrong. The more he attacked, the more attention he gave her, making her seem relatable to long-ignored people. In Oakland, 14-year-old Nico Vargas watched CNN's replay with his mother, whose husband had been deported 9 months earlier. "Mom, you should hear what she said," he called. They watched together, Jasmine calmly explaining that fairness wasn't about punishing people but not pretending some were above the rules. Nico's mother whispered, "Maybe she really sees us." Sunday afternoon, Jasmine broke her online silence with a simple video, no music, no edits, just her on a bench, speaking directly to the camera. "I know the headlines have been loud, the attacks ugly, but I meant my words. For every mother crying through glass partitions and every child carrying paperwork like armor, I see you, I stand with you." Under 90 seconds long, it accumulated 2.3 million views in 3 hours. Republican backlash persisted. Nebraska Congressman Earl McAdams claimed she'd violated unwritten decorum rules. "You never mention the First Lady or child, it's beyond the line." But that argument crumbled as people rewatched footage. Nowhere had Jasmine insulted them or called for deportation. She'd made an uncomfortable but undeniable parallel. Monday morning brought palpable tension to the Capitol. The chamber buzzed with whispers as Jasmine Crockett's name circulated. Conservative Congressman Earl Maddox filed his censure motion immediately, gathering 43 Republican signatures within hours. "She crossed a sacred line," Maddox told reporters. "You don't bring family into the crossfire." In her office, Jasmine reviewed constituent emails with Rena. Some were vicious, graphic, violent. "Forward these to Capitol Police," Rena asked, scanning one ending with, "You'll burn for this." "Not yet. Save them if they worsen. We'll discuss it." Death threats numbered in dozens, mostly from dummy patriotic accounts. But handwritten letters arrived from Des Moines, El Paso, Salinas, and Juma, people thanking her. One from a retired Border Patrol agent read, "You said what I've wanted to say for 18 years, but couldn't. Keep going, you've got more support than you realize." Immigration advocates invited Jasmine to speak on the Capitol steps. Thousands appeared spontaneously, many holding signs reading, "My mother could have been deported too." At the microphone, without podium or teleprompter, she began, "I didn't speak to provoke a fit, I spoke truth. And truth has always made powerful people uncomfortable." Applause erupted, echoing off marble behind her. "You can argue with my delivery or tone, but you can't argue that a brown mother crossing borders without status gets handcuffs, while a white model gets citizenship and a platform. That's not justice, that's branding." The crowd chanted, "Same rules for all." Inside the Capitol, Democrat Clark Yates approached afterward with a stern expression. "You need to dial it back, Jasmine. They're coming hard, they want to bury you." She stared at him momentarily, then asked, "Why does truth scare them so much?" He didn't answer. Trump's inner circle faced shifting dynamics. The censure effort had unexpectedly energized Crockett's base. Campaign donations tripled in 2 days. Grassroots organizers in swing states used her speech as rallying cries. Behind closed doors, Melania wasn't pleased. A leaked email from her communications aide revealed she'd requested no further mentions, not by Trump, not by Dint, not in official statements. "She wants this to disappear," the email stated. But Trump wouldn't relent. At a Naples rally, he brought it up again. "Imagine attacking a teenage boy and his mother for political points. Shameful. Jasmine Crockett should resign." His crowd roared. But some fire was missing, as even followers began questioning whether she'd actually attacked them or pointed out uncomfortable truths. Veteran political reporter Kendra Bloom wrote a viral opinion column titled, "She Said the Quiet Part Out Loud That's Not a Crime," ending with, "If your immigration story can't be criticized, maybe it's not as earned as you claim." Wednesday brought another shift. In Las Cruces La Posada Community Center, Jasmine met privately with 3 immigrant families, no cameras. No reporters, just them and social worker Victor Leon, who'd organized the meeting after seeing her town hall clip. Izula Mendoza spoke first, sliding a worn photo of her 2 sons across the table, both U.S. citizens, their father deported last year over expired paperwork and bad timing. "I haven't told them yet," she whispered. "They think he's away working." Jasmine listened silently, hands folded. Isala's voice cracked. "If I had Melanian's face, would he still be here?" Marta Sekulic, a Serbian immigrant who'd overstayed her visa in the early 2000s, had been allowed to adjust status, largely due to an immigration attorney interested in her modeling portfolio. "I got lucky," Marta said. "But it's not just luck. Is it I had the right look, accent, passport? I don't feel proud, I feel ashamed." The final family, a Ghanaian father and daughter, didn't speak. The 8-year-old sat in her father's lap, sketching on a napkin, while her mother, denied asylum 4 months earlier, hadn't been heard from since. Jasmine gently took the house with 1 window and stick figures outside. "Are these people waiting to get in?" she asked Victor, who nodded. "Every one of them." Leaving the center, Jasmine didn't say much to Rena. Something had hardened in her, not new, just more visible. "Want to share those stories?" Rena asked as they got in the car. Jasmine exhaled, then nodded. "Not with quotes or speeches, let them speak for themselves." That night, a thread appeared on Jasmine's official account. No hashtags, no political calls, just images with short captions. Isala, 2 kids, husband deported, paperwork delay, no lawyer. Marta, visa overstay, blonde model, green card in 16 months. Uma's daughter, still waiting to hear if her mother's alive. The thread exploded instantly. People didn't just retweet, they replied with their own stories, creating an unstoppable cascade of testimonies. Within hours, volunteers translated it into Spanish, Haitian, Creole, Farsi, Korean, and Urdu. Without prompting, conservative networks went silent briefly, having nothing to spin. At a Knoxville rally, Congressman Maddox tried maintaining momentum. "She's playing victim now," weaponizing sob stories to deflect from her attacks on the first family. But even his supporters looked uncertain. A woman whispered to her husband, "She didn't attack anyone, she made a point." In a nearby diner, 73-year-old Dolores Nwachukwu, who'd immigrated from Nigeria in 1971, clutched a printout of Jasmine's tweet thread. "She's not just talking about us," she told the waitress, "she is us." That's the difference. By Thursday morning, the White House found itself cornered by momentum rather than politicians. Trump fired off Truth Social posts. "Crockett's stories are fake, fabricated, she's a fraud. Shame on media for covering this nonsense." But screenshots of those tweets were immediately reposted beneath images of Jasmine sitting with real families, making him appear small and mean. Even conservative commentator Trevor Blaine tweeted, "The optics here aren't great if you're yelling fraud while a congresswoman sits with grieving parents. You've lost the thread. A major leak changed everything." White House staffer Abigail Royce anonymously forwarded an internal memo to journalists. "Stark Melania concerns internal only. Do not distribute." The memo revealed Melania had quietly asked the administration to stop mentioning her name, believing Crockett's comment had hit a sore spot and she didn't want more attention on her immigration history. Within hours, 2 separate sources confirmed the leak. Headlines blared, "Melania wants out. President doubles down while First Lady backs away." Small crowds formed in Albuquerque, Miami, Wichita, and Bakersfield, each sparked by local immigrant rights organizations carrying signs reading, "We're not invisible, Crockett told our truth. Same rules for all." In Savannah, teenage Samia Jaramillo climbed onto a mailbox outside City Hall, reading Jasmine's entire tweet thread through a bullhorn as friends filmed. By nightfall, the clip had gone viral. Jasmine reposted it with one sentence, "This generation isn't waiting for permission." Inside the Capitol, Republican leaders faced strategic dilemmas. The censure vote, once guaranteed, was losing steam as moderates quietly stepped back. Oregon Congresswoman Lynn Forsythe spoke during a closed-door meeting. "We don't have to agree with her, but we look ridiculous, dragging this out while she's literally listening to grieving families. This isn't a win anymore." Jasmine accepted an invitation to speak at Howard University. Walking on stage to a standing ovation, she said, "I didn't ask to be part of national drama. But when truth starts moving, you don't control where it lands, you just follow it." Her speech wasn't fiery, but clear and focused, laced with strangers' personal stories. She didn't mention Melania nor Barron at all. She didn't need to. Afterward, student Zaire Dunley asked, "What do we do if telling truth keeps making people uncomfortable?" Jasmine looked him directly in the eye. "You tell it anyway, because discomfort is temporary, but silence lasts forever." The following Tuesday, the House floor resembled a pressure cooker more than a governance chamber. Every seat was filled, phones buzzing against wood as the 3:30 p.m. censure vote approached. Outside, over 1,100 protesters lined First Street NY, chanting under the Capitol domes, shadow travelers from Reno, Toledo, Shreveport, and Madison, many bringing photos of deported or denied asylum family members. Speaker Thad Norwood tapped the gavel once. The House will come to order. Jasmine sat 2 rows back on the left, straight-backed, no notes, wearing a muted navy blazer with only a silver bracelet, her grandmother's gift, who'd cleaned Louisiana homes for 28 years. Representative Earl Maddox rose first, with fire and thunder. This isn't about policy, it's about decency, civility. A line was crossed, and if we don't hold each other accountable, what do we stand for? Then Jasmine stood, moving to the podium like she'd done it countless times. She adjusted the microphone once, looking around the room. You all know what I said. You've watched the clip, read the headlines? Let me say this again slowly for people who keep pretending I said something I didn't. She paused, took a breath. I did not insult Melania Trump. I did not threaten Barron Trump. I stated a fact that if they came here today without status or connections, they'd be treated like every other undocumented family. That's not cruelty, that's clarity, she continued without raising her voice or crying, but with weight to every word. You want to talk about crossing lines? Let's discuss mothers ripped from children in ICE raids, toddlers in courtrooms without lawyers, fathers here 18 years, paying taxes and raising kids, vanished overnight. The chamber fell silent. I'm not apologizing for saying what half this country knows. I won't apologize for representing ignored people because they don't come wrapped in privilege. If this body wants to punish me for that, fine, do it. But don't pretend it's about decency. It's about discomfort, and that's on you. The gallery erupted before being gavelled down. The final tally, 213 in favor, 208 opposed, 8 present. The censure passed technically, but no one celebrated, not even GOP hardliners, because when Speaker Norwood read results aloud, Jasmine stood up, not ashamed or wounded, and walked straight out surrounded by cheers from waiting staffers and supporters. Pausing only once for cameras, she said, "You can't shame someone standing on truth." The morning after the censure vote, Jasmine woke to over 3,800 new text messages and an inbox so full it stalled her phone. By noon, her campaign-confirmed fundraising had shattered records. More than $2.1 million in 34 hours from teachers in Idaho, baristas in Kansas, a retired housekeeper in Anaheim who gave $4 with a note. You speak for women like me, please. Don't stop. The most powerful moment came from teenager Elias Sandoval in El Paso, standing before a handheld camera with his back to a mural honoring separated families. My mom was deported when I was 8. They called her illegal like she was something dirty. Jasmine Crockett didn't say anything cruel. She said what people like us whisper at dinner tables when no one's watching, that our stories don't count unless we come with the right passport. He held up a faded photo of his mother. This country taught me to be quiet. She reminded me to speak. The video hit 8 million views in under 18 hours. 3 weeks after the town hall that shook the country, Jasmine stood alone in her childhood Tyler, Texas neighborhood, staring at the small weathered duplex where she grew up. Setting her phone on a ledge, she pressed record and sat in a folding chair. I've been thinking about silence, she began quietly, where it lives, how it grows, how it protects wrong people and buries right ones. Glancing at the house behind her, in this neighborhood, we grew up with lots of silence. We didn't talk about fear, immigration, who got stopped and who didn't, we just tried to stay small. She continued, when I made that comment 2 weeks ago, I didn't do it for headlines. I did it because I know what it means to watch people get punished just for existing, and I know what it looks like when the same laws bend for someone else. Leaning forward, they called me disgraceful, said I crossed lines, brought family into it. But no one seems to care when immigrant families get brought into cages, courtrooms, deportation vans. Her phone buzzed midstream, but she ignored it. I know this moment will pass hashtags, headlines, applause, always do. But people behind the stories, children still waiting to see parents again, they don't get to move on. Looking down, then back at the lens, her voice cracking for the first time. So if you're watching this wondering if anyone sees why do, I hear you. I've sat with your families, held your letters, and I will keep saying things no one else wants to say, even if it costs me everything. She ended with one sentence. Truth doesn't need approval, it just needs a spine. By nightfall, the video had been shared over 900,000 times, not through political pages or major news accounts, but by regular people who had never heard her name before that town hall. Her words began appearing in unexpected places, immigration judges quoting her, pastors referencing her in sermons, DACA recipients saying she didn't speak for them, she spoke with them. Jasmine went quiet again, not from fear but to give space for the stories she'd helped lift up. In that silence, something unexpected happened. People kept talking about privilege, fairness, why some lives feel disposable while others are protected. She had started a conversation that wouldn't disappear, and perhaps that was the real victory.